Now it's time for On Your Farm with Charlotte Smith.
This is not the highest point on the farm, but it's one of the highest points. Now, if we stand at the top now, you can nearly see Lichfield Cathedral in the far distance. There's the toll road.
That's the M6 toll.
M6 toll, and the A38 and the A5. So we're in the middle of the country. If there's going to be communication up north and south, we're in the middle of it.
Well, good morning. I'm on a hill in the middle of nowhere and yet right in the middle of everywhere, really, in Staffordshire on Packington Moor Farm with farmer John Barnes. And the reason we've come up here is to look at the view. A big expanse of green field and the farm buildings just beneath us. All very lovely. And yet all this, John, is going to change.
Yes, it is. 2 years ago we were told about the high-speed rail, or we read about it on the internet. When we first heard about it, it was on our meadowland running alongside that wood and around the back of us. But then, because the railway was going so close to Lichfield, our local MP lobbied to get it moved, and it was shifted just a little bit, and that little bit came straight through the farm buildings. It's around about 75 yards wide, so it actually wipes out the farmhouse, the farm buildings, the lambing shed, and cuts the farm in half. We'll have a block of land on one side and a block on the other.
You sound relatively calm, but what you're describing is the obliteration of a life's work.
But what you've got to understand is we've lived with this for 2 years now.
How did you find out about HS2 and its implications for your farm?
We didn't know anything about it until my tractor driver came in on one Monday morning and said, "What about this railway?" I said, "What railway?" He said, "The railway is going to come across the farm." I said, "Don't be silly." And I looked on the internet, and true, lo and behold, the railway line did go across our meadowland, and I couldn't believe it.
You hadn't had a letter or anything saying...
No, but that's how everybody's found out, is through the internet. And I have to say we were absolutely shell-shocked, because it was just about 3 or 4 days before Christmas. We were trying to sort out turkey orders. Our heads were all over the place, and that's probably when it hit us the hardest. Since then, obviously, we've lived with it. We've joined all the action groups. We've had beacons lit here.
From your point of view, you don't have any certainty about what's going to happen, because the government said, we're going ahead with this high-speed 2 rail. It will improve the journey times, initially between London and Birmingham, but then between London, Birmingham, Leeds, and so on up the country. Yeah. It will be a great thing. It will spread the wealth from the southeast up, and it's going ahead.
Yeah.
And yet for you there's still an element of doubt.
Well, I think that's because that doubt's been bred into us really from the activity of the Antis. And we are living with a Victorian railway system that maybe is creaky. Are we doing the right thing having the high-speed rail like they're doing it? I mean, if they aren't going quite so fast, they haven't got to go in such a straight line, in which case they could have followed the transport corridors more. It's the uncertainty that's killing us at the moment. We would really like to know yes or no.
We'll talk later on this morning about the effect of both the uncertainty and the possible obliteration of most of your farm buildings on both you and your family and also the business here. But this area, as you said when you described where we are, is not unfamiliar with big building projects. We can see, and just about here, the M6 toll road.
Yep.
Presumably when that was built, somebody, about 5-6 fields away...
Yes.
Maybe a little bit more, went through exactly what you're going through now.
I did, absolutely, and I feel quite wretched about it, really, in some respects, because we never really thought a lot about it, even though it was our neighbours. I realise now what they went through, and I do feel for them, because it is hard sometimes. I mean, the sort of business we're running here it's a 700-acre farm, but it's also got a farm shop, a wedding business, which we're doing over 100 weddings a year. We're front of house all the time, so we have to have a smiley face, and it's difficult sometimes to have that smiley face when all this other stuff's going on in your mind.
And meanwhile, as you say, life goes on, and at the moment, that means lambing.
Yes, it does. Well, that's good in some respects, because it takes your mind off everything else.
Let's go and have a look.
Yeah.
So we're just coming around the corner, back down into the farmyard with the sun on our backs and a bright blue sky above us. It's absolutely glorious weather, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah. Time of year.
Now, the farmyard here is largely red brick buildings. How old are these?
The farmhouse is Georgian. The farm buildings themselves are similar age, so they're 1800. Grandparents came here in 1921 as tenants. I inherited the tenancy in '94. My father died. And Rosemary and myself, that's Rosemary, my wife, and I bought the farm as sitting tenants in 2001.
So it is now yours?
Yes. We wanted to develop the buildings, and when we were tenants, we weren't able to do that in the way that we wanted to.
So what have you changed? We've just wandered through. We've got old...
Yes. There's
brick
a granary.
built barns.
There's a granary there.
Old barn there, I guess.
Old barn over there. The granary, they've all got planning permission, all of them, for conversion into self-catering and accommodation for the weddings.
So you've converted the two?
Yes, those two. They've got a bridal cottage and accommodation over there.
So I'm looking at a lot of investment.
Yes, a huge amount. We've probably invested towards £1 million over the last 5 years.
But once the railway comes...
It'll all go. It's all demolished. Where you're standing now is actually the middle of the railway line.
I'm in the way of high speed 2.
Yeah, you are.
So when you bought it, presumably you did all the research.
Yeah.
There was nothing that gave any hint?
We spent a lot of money with solicitors. Nothing ever came up of this nature.
If you'd have known, you wouldn't have bought it, would you?
Probably not, no. But having said that, if we were tenants now, we'd be in a worse situation because we would end up with nothing.
Let's get back to the farming.
Yeah, yeah.
It's feeding time in the lambing shed. John's son Henry is just popping a large round bale in for their feed, and to do it he's using JCB machine, which is the noise you can hear. And as he's working, he's just taken off the net, so the round bale is gently falling apart. And there's one particularly intrepid lamb who is, I would say, neck deep now in the hay. The ewes aren't quite so chuffed, they're running around. It's a big, open-sided barn here, so the sunshine is streaming in. The lambs are bouncing around. Morning, Henry. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Fine. So how long have you been back on the farm then?
About 5 or 6 years now. I went to college, then went travelling for a year. Went to Australia, worked there on a farm for a bit, and then came home.
And that was always the plan, was it,
Always
to come
the
back?
plan, yeah.
So what's your main role on the farm at the moment then?
My job title is assistant farm manager, but Dad won't retire, so I think I'll be that for a bit longer yet. Just trying to push forward with it and take on as much as I can.
You say push forward, but there's a bit of an uncertain cloud.
That's it. We don't know where we're going at the moment. Always looking for more land. No point really taking it on at this stage because we don't know where we'll be. So it makes life very difficult.
Obviously, it's practically difficult,
yeah.
But is it also emotionally difficult?
Yeah, very, very. You walk around the farm all the time. You're working in the nice spots of the farm, and you think, well, this is going to be ripped up by a train. And even if we wanted to live nearby one day, you don't feel like you could because you just couldn't see the farm in a different state. For me, it's like the most beautiful part of England because it's where I've always lived. It's where I always wanted to be, but I'm not sure if I will anymore, which is difficult.
Assuming it does all go ahead and the farm would be split in two, so arguably it might still be viable.
Yeah, well...
But would you, though, rather just sell up, go somewhere else, start again?
Well, these are the questions you ask yourself all the time. Sometimes you think you could, sometimes you think you couldn't. You just don't know what it'd do to you.
And particularly for you, because I suppose you thought you'd go to college, you'd come back, you'd work on the farm with your dad, and then eventually, if he ever retires, you'd get to take over and maybe live in the house.
Yeah, yeah. All the normal things farmers' sons do, eventually take over the farmhouse and everything. That was always the plan, and still seems like it will be the plan until something actually really happens, because it's day to day, it's still pretty straightforward. I mean, it's taken so long to get to where we are, and a lot of heartache, and to go through all that again, it's going to be particularly difficult.
Let's talk about the day-to-day, because it's right in front of us.
Yeah.
Lambing.
Yeah. Got 250 ewes, which you split into 2 flocks. Just finished the first session of lambing with the first. This is mainly them. They're the older girls. They're a bit more experienced.
Do you help in this, or do you
A
decide...
little bit, but it's mainly Dad's. I'm more the arable, Dad's more the livestock.
Quite vocal, this lot, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're permanently hungry for whatever reason, but they're inside for a little while yet. But once the grass starts growing, they'll be tipped out.
On a day like today, you must be thinking they'll be tipped out a little bit
well,
sooner.
yeah.
It is lovely. They're on straw, as I said. They've got plenty of room to roam around. And the lambs, which are quite a size now, are bouncing around and tootling. It's very relaxed in here.
Yeah,
isn't
it is. It's sight for sore eyes, isn't it? Yeah.
Where do they all go? You have a farm shop.
We have a farm shop. We do sell an amount in the farm shop. The bulk of them we take to Derby Market.
One of the arguments for building a high-speed link is that it will improve the economy at this end. Maybe that would benefit you, that there would be more people in the farm shop.
Will it improve it? Will people just go back to London more quickly?
The other thing, I mean, we've heard a lot about the Chilterns. One of the most beautiful areas in the country, people will say, and why drive a railway link through that?
Yeah.
Here, I can't think of a polite way to say it, but it's a bit more bog standard countryside.
Yeah, it is.
Around here. You can't argue that we would be losing a jewel.
In your eyes. We've lived and worked at the family house for 100 years, and there's a lot of emotion tied up with this place. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder at the end of the day.
We're moving away from the sheep, and as you can hear, they're protesting as I'm deserting them. We're just making our way back over towards the farm shop, because you've diversified an awful lot from basic farming here, John, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. Well, that was the whole one of the reasons for buying the place, to be fair. In the 90s, arable farming wasn't so great, and we wanted another source of income, and that's why we developed them.
Was arable really the history of farming in this area?
Yes, it's very much a veg-growing area, proximity to Birmingham markets. There's a lot of potatoes grown locally, parsnips, carrots. It was traditionally sugar beet growing area until the factories all disappeared. But potato growing was probably what is and was a very core industry locally, because we're on very sandy sort of land.
We've just made our way past the house. Just in front of us, we've got a large field just glinting in this amazing sunlight, and then trees coming all the way up the drive here into the car park for the very busy farm shop. I'm just going to move because there's yet more people coming into your farm shop car park here. Is this part of the privilege you have in owning this land, that you, in most normal circumstances, can look at this view across the field to the little copse of trees and know that tomorrow it will look like that, and it will pretty much look like that until you decide to plant something different in the field?
Yeah, it is a privilege, you're right.
And maybe that's what's changing, that you don't see much change in rural areas, as someone in an urban area will see change quite a lot of the time.
That's true to a degree. I think here we've seen a lot of change, because obviously the farm buildings aren't farm buildings anymore. We've created other stuff out of them. It is a privilege, but I still feel if it's going to be taken off us, as my daughter says, if we don't take a hit for the team, surely we deserve something in return.
Is that how you see it, taking a hit for the team, taking a hit for the rest of the country?
I do. I'm not being a NIMBY or anything like that, because if it is right to have the railway, so be it. But we do need a bit of fairness, I think, in all of this. At this moment in time, we don't know what the compensation is going to be. The route is being safeguarded in the autumn, and we could actually serve a notice on the government then to buy it off us. But how do you value a place like this?
Let's be hard-hearted about it, though. You have a house, you can build a house. You've got farm buildings. You can build sheds. It's only going to affect, 15 acres out of a 700-acre farm?
Yes, it is.
So the farm is still viable.
Yeah,
you just have to build this residential section, if you like, on another bit of it.
What about the jobs that are going? We employ here, probably on site, around about 50 people, on and off. They're going to all be out of work. We're selling weddings 3 years ahead. How do we do that? Because nobody's going to want to get married next to a railway line. It's fairly emotional, I realise that, but at the end of the day, if you've got a bit of history tied up with somewhere, then it is going to be difficult.
To an extent, they can wave a cheque as large as they like, and you're still not going to feel right about it.
No, there's always going to be a blood tie with this place. We just need closure, really. We just need to know what's happening. The next generation is sort of wanting to move on, and Rosemary and I are both late 50s, looking to retirement in the next 5 or 6 years' time. We've got this instead.
If I weren't already married, I'd be notebook out at this point, wouldn't I? Gosh, just behind one of the barns, there's the most beautiful courtyard with raised beds with white flowers in them. In front of us, a converted barn, which is huge amounts of glass. And how many weddings do you do here?
This year we've got 120.
And as we're talking, what I just glanced at and thought was a tree has actually miraculously turned into a metal fountain. And this is Rosemary, your wife?
Yes.
Rosemary, are you wedding supremo, or is this a job you share around the family?
We share it to an extent. Yes, I probably started the whole venture, but as the years have gone on, others have got involved, primarily Jo Wilson, who is our venue manager and soon to be married to our son. So she's had a baptism of fire into the family business, but has embraced it very well.
What gave you the idea that a farm in Staffordshire might attract people to come and get married here?
A customer first of all asked us if we could host something in the barn here in its very raw state, and we felt it really wasn't suitable for a wedding, so we went into a marquee in the garden. We then did just think, well, yes, we could create something here, and just evolved, really.
Jo, show me inside this barn. So where are we in both wedding terms?
This is the civil ceremony room here.
It is quite church-like
Yes.
in here, isn't it? We've got wiggly-woggly bricks
Yeah.
in the wall going up to a wooden roof with the beams all exposed, gnarled timbers. I mean, it's beautiful. And then going down, this is where... Oh, and it's all set up already. White tablecloths, lots of glass shining in the sunshine. Now, you're about to get married.
I am, yes.
Are you getting married here, or would that be too much like work?
We did decide that we would get married here. I think it would have been too stressful to think about going elsewhere.
And you're doing, 100 of other people's weddings every year, so you
Yeah.
must be a complete expert in getting married.
Well,
when's your
that's
wedding?
the pressure. 9 weeks we get married, yes. So.
No wonder you look so calm. You've done it all before.
Well, that
9
is the
weeks.
plan.
So, brutal truth, this all goes.
Quite strange to think that it won't be here. We've had inquiries for 2015 and we're just unsure what to say, and they want to book and plan, and we can't guarantee that we'll be here. So at this stage we are saying, well, we'll definitely take obviously bookings for 2014 and 15, but maybe not beyond.
That must affect your business as a bottom line, not to mention your head.
Yes, it does. It will, obviously, and we don't know how the prospect of the train line coming through will affect bookings now, because people might think that we'll be gone and we won't be here, and whether to even come visit anyway. So we don't know how that's affecting our visits at the moment.
How's it affecting you? Because here you are, you're getting married in 9 weeks' time. Your future would have looked pretty set a year ago, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It is tricky for Henry and I, because we don't know how to plan for the future now. This was sort of my part of the family and what I was going to do for the future. So, yeah, it's hard.
We should move out of here because they're trying actually to set it up for somebody's wedding. We're just getting in the way. The sunshine is actually really hot. I'm just making my way up past the farm shop and the cafe, which is the burble you can hear. And in front of me, what will be a pick-your-own strawberries, and to my right, a wheat field. Not just any wheat field, you were telling me, Henry. You've been titivating this wheat, have you?
Made sure it was the first one drilled, and because the wedding's on May the 5th, and there'll be plenty of hedgerow farmers at that wedding.
So let's get this straight. You have paid particular attention to this field of wheat because all your friends who are largely farmers are going to come and judge you on it on your wedding day.
Yeah, well, most people know we farm a very sandy farm, so it's usually quite embarrassing yields. I have to tell my friends of at harvest time, so hopefully this one will be a bit better and I'll be able to show it off.
Have you thought about what you're going to wear, or is it just the wheat? The whole family are gathered around. Grace, who we haven't yet met, who's been hard at work in the shop and the cafes, also with us. Now, actually, Grace, this building where the shop and cafe are, it is likely to survive.
It looks like that on the map, although to actually construct the line, it probably won't still be standing. They'll have to demolish it.
And you came back to the farm how long ago?
3 years ago.
To start this?
To open up the farm shop, just to move it all forward.
Do you regret that now?
I don't regret it at all, no, but not in vain, but you kind of think, gosh, all that hard work. And it was for, a long time, for 1-2 generations, not just 5 years, 10 years even, so it was a real shame.
Let's look on the bright side, though. You do have a 700-acre farm here. You could get the compensation for the buildings, for the 15 acres that you won't be able to farm, flog the 700 acres, which will be worth much more now than when you bought it, because land prices are doing very well at the moment. move somewhere else. Maybe Grace, you could take some money and go and do something, and Henry and Joe could take some money and go and do something else, and your parents could retire. It could be great.
That is pretty much the only light at the end of the tunnel, but it's going to be a good 10 years before we can look back and go, yeah, that's all done, we're happy now. And that's, it's a long time in all of our lives, particularly for Mum and Dad.
John, could you get you your retirement?
Well, it could, I suppose. The only thing
If it
is...
doesn't kill you on the way.
It can kill me on the way, that's right. The fact is that the land we're standing on now, there's a 300-acre block we're on, is the bit we own. The other bit we rent still, so it isn't just as simple as that.
No, there's still, we feel, an enormous amount of water to go under the bridge before we begin to even get a concept of the true way forward. And I think if truly the project couldn't be stopped, I think it is important to hope that the government bodies do understand the anguish that this type of situation causes just ordinary people whose lives are interrupted for no fault of their own.
Does it make you anxious?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, the stress is unbelievable and will continue to be, and that's kind of what makes it even more stressful, is it's only going to get worse.
But we're not the only ones. I have to hasten to add, we're one of many along this route.
And meanwhile, you've all got day jobs,
yes.
Running farm, shop, cafe, and weddings. Hard.
You can then lose yourself in the lambing shed, or you can lose yourself on a tractor and do other things. But certainly for the girls, they're front of house all the time, so they have to be smiley face.
And the general public as a whole are very interested and want to know what's happening. So we are constantly asked, and you have to remain relatively upbeat at the same time conveying that we're going to be here for a few years.
Yeah. It's business as usual.
Of course, more important than anything else, you've got your wedding to plan, for goodness sake.
Yes. Well,
We thought we might prepare a handout. Please don't ask me about a train, his handout.
Don't make that as a quick speech.
Yeah.
Don't ask us about the bloody rail.
On Your Farm was presented by Charlotte Smith and produced in Birmingham by Melvyn Rickaby.